Do gun laws work? No. Okay, if we really want the answer, we need to first specify what we mean by this question. When we talk about gun laws, we really mean restricting access to firearms, and by asking if they work, we are trying to see if we are making our societies less violent. So what we really mean is, does limiting access to firearms create safer societies? This is still a complicated and problematic question, but that is the question we will use for this video. And we can look at a few key pieces of data to show that more strict firearm laws do not actually lead to safer societies. If we were to compare countries to one another, historic rivals, the United States and Russia, have about the same homicide rates of 6.8 per 100,000 people. Despite the US being known for its enthusiastic gun culture and Russia being more restrictive, especially when it comes to handguns, the firearm type most used in homicides. This point alone is interesting, but even more so when we consider a third country, Switzerland. Switzerland is very friendly to civilian gun ownership, being the nation with the third most firearms in the world and having a firearm in roughly 1 of every 3 households. Yet Switzerland only has a homicide rate of 0.48 per 100,000 people. Surely, if firearm restrictions directly coincided with safer societies, Russia and Switzerland's homicide rates should be flipped. Similarly, you've probably seen an image like this somewhere, from everytownresearch.org. This chart clearly shows a strong connection between states with more strict firearm laws and having less gun violence. This makes sense at face value, but then we must consider again what we are asking. The purpose of firearm restrictions are not just to have less incidents involving firearms. The purpose is to reduce violence overall. With this better understanding, we can compare their list of states with the most firearm restrictions to the CDC's data on homicide rates from this year. Here's a scatterplot chart for a more comprehensive visual. This chart shows a correlation coefficient of roughly negative 0.17. This indicates a weak correlation between strict gun regulations and homicide rates. The closer it is to -1, the more we could definitively say that strict gun laws reduce homicide rates. But what we see in reality is that stronger gun laws have minimal effect on homicide rates, as shown with significant outliers like Idaho, New Hampshire, and Utah, which have weak gun laws and fewer homicides, while Illinois and Maryland have stronger gun laws and higher homicide rates. Even California, noted as having the strongest gun laws in the nation, the ideal that every town strives for, has the higher homicide rate than 19 other states. California does not even fall into the top third of safest states. The last piece of information I wanted to bring up was this study from the American Journal of Public Health, which tells that a single law in Connecticut led to a 40% decrease in firearm homicide rates. This is an impressive feat, and if it were true, such a law should be enacted in all places. Unfortunately, this data has been misconstrued. The reality of the situation is again more complicated than that single statement. In October of 1995, Connecticut instated a handgun permit to purchase law, which required people purchasing a handgun to go through a background check and waiting period. Prior to this, in 1993, violent crime had reached a peak in American history. Firearm homicides were at a rate of 7.0 per 100,000 nationally. But as seen on this graph from Pew Research Center, after the peak came an immediate decline, which saw a national decrease of nearly 50% in the following decades. The 40% decrease in Connecticut may have occurred in some small part due to the new law, but fits a national trend that the permit to purchase law does not explain. So all in all, the information I have presented tells us tighter gun restrictions do not directly lead to safer societies. To state or imply that they do is harmful. Murder and other violent crimes are serious issues with many varied causes and effects. The purpose of this video is not to say gun laws never work, rather, I mean to tell you to be better informed. Do research of your own to see what really has an impact. This video focused entirely on gun policy, but I did not mention other issues that are much more strongly linked to crime, such as poverty, education, and addiction. I strongly encourage you to look at these issues and come to your own conclusions. Thank you for watching.